Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the Open Meeting Act. The Verona Board of Education passed a resolution at its meeting held on January 7, 2014. The meeting set forth the schedule of its regular meetings, which resolution was within 7 days of passage. The schedule was sent to the Verona City Times, the Star Ledger, the Herald News, the Township of Verona, and the Verona Education Association. Postings of this meeting setting forth the time, location, and agenda were posted in each of Verona's 6 schools, the board office, and town hall. This posting was also sent to the other newspapers, all SCA presidents, and SCA liaisons. The Verona Board of Education operates under a consent agenda format. Any board member has a right to have an item pulled to be voted upon and discussed separately. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public present. Mr. Spartel?
Here.
Mr. Day?
Here.
Mr. Bellino?
Here.
Mr. Eunice?
Here.
Mr. Quattrochi?
Here. Okay, welcome to our first meeting of September, after a few days of the new school year beginning under Mr. Dionisio's belt, and he's still with us, so that's a successful first and a half week. Okay, any public comment or question on any of the agenda items? All right, let's go into the rest of the agenda here. And before we do it, I have a question for the board on format of the meeting. Speaking with Mr. Dionisio after some of our last meetings, we'd like to propose that we change the order of the agenda going forward and have the superintendent's report first and followed by the board committee reports. And then we can do discussion right after. Just change, put 4 right ahead of number 2 and then carry on from there. Is everybody okay with that?
Who would like to get the first word? Is that what the other?
Superintendent should get the first one. So that's exactly right. Is that okay?
I'm fine.
Yeah. All right, congratulations. So we'll do that next meeting because I'm sure you're unprepared now. So let's do athletic committee first.
He looks prepared. I took all they call it.
So I get to go first now, so let's see for this one.
See
So,
See you on the 23rd.
okay. I'm not going to go. But I have an exciting athletic committee report. First of all, talking about the field committee. Actually, next meeting on September 23rd, Paul McDevitt from the head of Buildings and Grounds will be doing a presentation and will be providing an update about fields, maybe some start dates and more details about that project. So just want to let you know that's going to be happening on September 23rd. Regarding the Heads Up program for football, Dan Carrado, which is a player safety coach, went into certification or is certified with the Heads Up program, so he went to get educated on the Heads Up program, which is being applied by with 30 of the 38 schools in the conference. So it's a big deal to do this Heads Up program to help reduce concussions, and in this particular case it's regarding football. So again, Dan Carrado, thank you very much for going the extra mile and getting certified for the Heads Up program. Talking about the summer blackout period, it's something new for me being on the board. I'm learning about the summer blackout period. Really what the summer blackout period is a period of time in the summer where coaches and people involved with sports teams are not involved with the students. So really what happens is, you want to have the kids have time with the family, time for vacation. So what we try to do is create a little blackout period. In this case, it was from usually it's in the beginning of August, the first 2 weeks in August. We just try to have a blackout period so we don't have athletics as a year-round event, which it is, but I'd like to have a little bit of a period where coaches and students really don't need to interact and provide a little bit of a break from the grind, because I know the kids and the coaches work really hard on these sports, and maybe it's nice to have a little bit of a break. So the blackout period is going to be actually scheduled for August 1st, 2015 to August 10th, 2015, going into next year. So Mr. Parisians already has that planned out. Regarding the main gym floor, I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to take a look at the main gym floor, but it's very impressive. They had it resurfaced, stripped, and actually bleached it a little bit to make it in key, so it's a very nice setup. They also added drilled some holes so they can actually put volleyball courts. We had an issue before, so that is all done on the main gym floor, so I think it's a great, I guess, upgrade to what we had already in the gymnasium. And the last thing I have was regards to the AED boxes. We actually put 2 AEDs out in HDW and FM Brown prior to 9/1, so those are already out there. We purchased 2 outdoor boxes, and we also have 4 portable units. So one of the key things is to make sure that we have those accessible during any games in Verona. And one of the rules that we put together for the coaches is that they need to return to Verona if they're going to a visitor location and we do not have an AED within 90 seconds from the site. So the key is that if we go to a visitor location, there's no AEDs available within 90 seconds, we have the right to leave, and that's something that the conference is trying to abide by. Now, we could bring our portable units, we could do a lot of things, but we provide 30 minutes for the home team to provide us an AED if it's at their location. Otherwise, we have the right to leave. So, and that doesn't happen frequently, but it's a new ruling by the conference to make sure we can provide the safety for the children. And I guess I said the last thing, but there was one more last thing, that actually 2 more last things. The bleachers in the lower field, you might have seen them up, they're up. I think they got put up yesterday, is that correct? So you'll see them up and ready to go for the football season. And the final last thing is a discussion, and really you can correct me on this, that regarding the girls soccer team, right now we have 24 girls that want to play soccer on the JV team and the varsity team. The issue is you need 22 girls to be able to play on those teams, 2 teams if they play at the same time. So the bottom line is we don't have enough to have 2 teams playing together. So we're just trying to make sure that the schedule allows us to have enough girls and backups to be able to play those games. So that's not a big issue, but we just want to make sure that you're aware if we have more girls that come on the team or want to play, then that issue will be resolved. But for right now, we might have to realign some scheduling for the girls soccer team. Any questions about the report? Michael, anything you want to add? Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, Education Committee met earlier today. We covered special education as well as curricular, ancient curriculum. On the special education front, we reviewed just the ongoing enrollment changes down at the ESL level. Additional student that now has come into the district that is now on the rolls, and we reviewed a couple of mediation cases that are going on with those families affected. In terms of the curriculum meeting, it was a pretty hefty agenda, and we have a number of resolutions on the plan for tonight. We reviewed the personnel resolutions that appear tonight, number 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, and 9. No, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, and 9. And I'll just go through a quick synopsis of what we discussed. There will be some new curriculum documents that the board should have received in their board notes last week. There are 4 VHS curriculum update documents, 1 HBW, 1 elementary level. There's a review, which is final now, or almost final, with Syracuse University for 2 courses that now are due enrollment here at the high school. One is writing, culture, introduction to creative nonfiction writing, and the other one is foundations of human behavior, aka psychology, from Syracuse. So the students are in both of those classes today. We reviewed some videos. There's 5 videos that are added to the library, videos that are available at the high school. That's resolution 7. There was some training, ongoing training, and the district education advisory committee notes on not only the Marzano and SGO progress, but also mentoring. Resolution 8 appoints 2 of our staff for HIV, specialist and coordinator. There are some changes to personnel stipends for 3 individuals in the staff. staff due to errors in the typing of previous resolutions that have now been corrected. That's on the resolutions tonight. Resolution 2 are two substitute approval for two substitutes. Resolution 9 is a new tuition paying student coming into the district, NTW. Then resolution 3, which is personnel resolution for a staff member who needs to take some personal time without pay. And that's it for education. Questions? Community Resources met yesterday, and there were we set an agenda for this year that's aligned to the strategic plan, or our strategy number 3, and it's all about community communication. The two things that we talked about were, one, the Friday folder in and of itself is a conduit to get information to the public, but it's sort of evolved into more, essentially a folder or handout material. It's got very little structure to it. So in speaking to Mr. Dionisio and Mr. Eunice and I, sort of set the agenda to say there's plenty of very low cost software out there that's available to send a more professional newsletter looking, aesthetically easier to follow document out or email out that not only will let you handle the handout components of it, but also put in our own sort of newsworthy messages and status updates and highlights and all that. So you don't need to sort of follow a bunch of website links in order to get to a document to see whether it's relevant. We can read the face of the folder and determine if there's anything of interest. So there'll be some work that Mr. Dionisio will spearhead on that. And then secondly, we discussed ownership of the content on our website, as well as the navigation and ease of finding that content and relevance of that content. I think we've had a very severe decline on the accessibility of information on our website. The tools itself is very, very powerful. In fact, it's got much more capability than we use. It's got the ability to have mobile apps. You can have a school website app on your phone. We don't subscribe to that. There are user forums and community forums that the vendor sponsors with other school districts. We don't participate in those, etc. So there's lots of money we can get out of that. So we put it in a plan to tackle that. Both of these, like I said, tie into our strategy 3 of the strategic plan. Any questions?
I have a question. I want to go back to education because you went past it. I had a question that you talked about staff member who wants to take some time off. And resolution number 3 on the agenda is approving that, but it doesn't say how long the time off is. How much of the time are we?
It was just 1 day.
I think you should put it in the resolution. It's 1 day. What does it say?
No, it was just 1 day.
Okay.
Buildings and grounds? I'm sorry, Joe, is that it?
Yeah.
Buildings and grounds?
So if the rest of the board agrees, I'll just combine buildings and grounds in the ad hoc referendum. We've been doing that last couple of times anyway. So the Buildings and Grounds Committee met earlier this evening, and Mr. McDevitt updated the committee on the bullet points that are on the update that I'll go through. So the Energy Savings Improvement Project, where that stands is the energy investment grade energy audit has been completed, and now we are, as part of the process to validate the energy savings that they've estimated in their audit, we are obligated to contract with a second auditor to validate Honeywell's estimates. So it's a second set of eyeballs really at the end of the day. So and that's part of the Board of Public Utilities the process that they promulgated as that allows us to participate in this in the project. So Mr. McDevitt has gone out for bids for that audit. We expect that in the office to come back on September 12th. I'll skip the field project, come back to that. As Jim mentioned, Mr. McDevitt will be presenting to the board next week an update on the athletic fields. But that'll also be a presentation on the overall referendum project, as well as the activities over the summer that the Buildings and Grounds executed around some $100,000 or so, not including the track.
That's, you said next week, next meeting.
Next meeting.
Next board meeting.
Yeah, 2023. Okay, and speaking of the track, that work will start tomorrow morning, and the contractor expects that to take about a week to be completed. So it'll be resurfacing the track. The inner field will not be usable, but the programs have been able to accommodate that disruption, and then we'll be back in one week later. And then we also are proceeding with posting a position to help Paul with the administrative and clerical work for the project.
That's going for the coming year.
Well, I think they're posting the job descriptions and starting to seek resumes now.
What's the duration of that position?
Currently, it'll be through the end of the referendum project, so 2016.
Sometime.
2016, for about 18 months.
But the idea is to hopefully build into the budget a staff position to allocate to the Buildings and Grounds Department at the end of the referendum. So we'll have a 3-year window to build that into that salary into the budget. So on the referendum, coming out of the last meeting, there were some questions raised about our obligations as a board and as a referendum project to seek permits from either the county or the municipal planning board. And we pursued trying to get answers to those questions. So we reached out to Essex County and asked them if they feel that they have to weigh in on the project. The initial response, we haven't gotten anything in writing yet, but they have given us some feedback that so long as our construction project does not encroach on any county property, that they're inclined to write us a letter that says they have no interest in our project and proceed as planned. We are obligated, out of courtesy, if you will, to present our plans to the municipal planning board. So we will do that. That was always our understanding of what we should do, what we want to do. And in advance of that meeting, which should take place sometime in November, we're meeting with the town engineer tomorrow to give him an update on the issues that he raised about a month and a half ago when we met to ask him if he had any concerns about our project, which he did. He outlined a couple that I think the board's been updated on around the waistline that runs through the field now, some of the fill questions, some questions about the lighting, utilities needs, if we were to install a bathroom. And so the engineer has investigated all of those, took those under advisement, and made some corrective plans around his suggestions. So we're going to update him tomorrow on that, and then prepare for that planning board presentation. So overall, the project is still on schedule. We'll see the bids. So the engineering firms are finalizing their bid packages. Our final design engineering drawings will be ready sometime in October. And we do have to seek, there's a permitting period that we have to seek a permit from the Department of Environmental Protection because we're tying that new sewer line into a state waste line. wastewater treatment line. So after that permitting period, we expect to go out for bid in January, start construction. The first construction piece will be the doors that start sometime in February, and then the bulk of the construction work will happen in the summer of 2015 and 2016. So it's on schedule. As far as the budget goes, there are some material gives and takes. So the take was the engineer had recognized that we don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a retaining wall on between the upper and lower field, but we should build we should reinforce the current retaining wall that's down in the southeast corner by the JV field now. And then we'll use that savings also to fund the sewer line. And but overall, within the constraints of these gives and takes, the project is still well within budget, and we still have $450,000 contingency fee that has not been eaten into. So there's no real recommendations that the committee is making to the board.
No, that's not true.
Oh, the alternates. We have final, yeah, go ahead.
At the project committee, we spent quite a bit of time talking about the upper field and what will be done with the upper field. At that point in time, we asked for Friends of Perillo to provide us with various alternatives as to what we can do with the upper field beyond doing nothing. In the base bid, essentially, there will be no remediation of the upper field other than to fence it off and make it into some kind of green area. Beyond that, they said, well, what if we do want to try to remediate that in some way? So we asked for a set of alternatives, and they did provide us with the alternatives. There were 3 alternatives, and there were various elements of the alternatives to what they actually included. The lowest cost was for rapid impact compaction, which is about $600,000. The second one was a little bit more costly, included a geogrid for $725,000, and the third one at a cost of $935,000, $935,000, we do it tomorrow. $935,000 was a combination of A and B included in C. And what we decided at the committee tonight essentially was that no remediation will be included in the base bid other than to perhaps enhance the fencing around it and some of the greenery that's in there, but to include in the alternates option C, which is the most costly but provides us with the most stabilized field over the long run. It will be included as an alternate only if money becomes available, because the base bid is lower than what we anticipated when we move forward with remediation of the upper field. If that doesn't come to pass, if the base bid comes to what the architects and the experts have told us it would, then there will be no essential remediation of the upper field. So that's the recommendation of the committee at this point in time to the board, is that we just include remediation to any great extent as an alternate only, and only as it relates to alternative C. Most expensive, but the most rehabilitative in the long run over the course of time. So that's the recommendation.
So, but just to be clear, do nothing choice is to take the field, looking at the field from the sky down, right? About a third of the field on the backside, the visitor side.
We actually have this is what's the current base project. It's just a rendering that they created.
Right, so that's
always what we expect.
right. But that's what I'm saying, when we say do nothing means secure or cordon off that the third of the field that's the visitor side of the current upper field. about a third, right? And say that's where the most unstable part of the land is, with the greatest number of feet deep of fill that constantly drains the soil down and constantly creates the sinkholes and all of that, right? The 2/3 of the field nearest the building is stable land that we can use as a practice. We couldn't use it to host games, we couldn't use it, but you could use it for some number of practice events, and then you can use it in certain situations, there's no lights back there, right? So the do nothing version is render that, I'm trying to describe it, so render the 2/3 of the field usable again by safing off the 1/3 that's the unstable problematic part, right? Isn't there in the world of alternates, if that's what we did in the do nothing, shouldn't we find out what it would cost to put lights up there so that marching band or whatever could use that rather than have to use the lower field? If you had the money in the alternate space.
We could, but I mean, that was not included, lighting was not included in just making sure, no, it was not included in the alternate space. We certainly wasn't going to have
I mean, if there were alternate funds to be used on those sorts of things, that might not be a bad consideration. On the other hand, though, before I get too far ahead of it, but before you spend some presumably material amount of money to do that, I'm sure there's a little laundry list of things that I'd like to hear from Mr. McDivitt about at the next meeting on what are the other things that perhaps were not listed in the referendum specifically that might be alternates because they're in the long-range facility plan around, restroom renovations and all sorts of things that we would need.
He'll present those.
That are priority.
There's about a half dozen alternates. The restrooms is,
Yeah, so when we talk about alternates, we should
they're
look
small
at alternates.
dollars.
Right, when we talk about alternates, let's look at alternates sort of uniformly across the whole district, not specific to any one element of the project.
I just think we need to rename it not the do nothing plan, but the partial remediation or some variable where, because that was a big thing, they were going to at least revive 75% of the upper field, which we will be doing, but
It's not do nothing, it's do nothing above and beyond what we had already
Yeah.
planned. So that's the plan is that's still the plan, right? That hasn't changed. The original plan is still in place.
Any other questions for Mr. Ross? All right, so we have Mr. McDivitt at the next meeting to go through the new school year from July 1, summertime work, as well as a market on the referendum as a whole, inclusive of field technology. We have any discussion items tonight?
Just at our October board meetings, we have the 2 days, we'd just like to point out to the public, are not the second and the fourth weeks, but were the first and the third weeks that are scheduled. It's currently scheduled for October 7th and October 20th. However, the 20th is Monday evening, and we'll be changing that date to the 21st, and we'll reflect that on our district website. So the dates for October will be the first and the third weeks, and they will be October 7th and October 21st.
Let's do superintendent's report.
So my second board meeting and the first official week of school, very happy to be here. We kicked off Tuesday, September 2nd with convocation and welcoming all of the teachers back, all of the staff members back. September 3rd ended up being a full day of professional development and supporting our teachers with Marzano instructional training, with AD training and CPR, as well as dyslexia training. So it was a full day of instruction for our teachers, and also finalizing plans and getting our classrooms ready, both on the second and the third. I had the good fortune on September 4th to visit all of the elementary schools, so it was a full and fun-packed day, and the kids, they were eager and energized to come back into school. It was a great event. I was able to get into, I think, just about every single elementary classroom to visit with the teachers and to say hello and welcome all the children back. I was at HBW and Verona High School a little bit of each of the days, and over the past 2 days, I was fortunate enough to go to HBW. There was the honor roll recognition ceremony for the 5th through 8th graders, both yesterday and today after school, and it was a really wonderful turnout. It was a packed house, standing room only, and a lot of really wonderful things going on with just hearing all the students who are performing extremely well academically, and this reflects their performance from the 2013-2014 school year. So a really great way to kick off this school year by making sure that we're highlighting that and we're valuing that with our students and kicking off the school year right. I've also had the good fortune of meeting with several organizations in town, and I have a lot of meetings that are planned, that are upcoming. I met with VFE yesterday, and we talked about the grant process and making sure that we're getting the communication to our administrators and our teachers that supports the district vision by providing the wonderful community outreach that VFE provides to our staff members and to our students as far as getting grants into the teachers' hands to make sure that we're supporting our students. I've also met with several of the athletic team, committees in order to make sure that I'm communicating with them. I have an upcoming meeting with the SCA that will be coming up shortly, and VMAC as well that I'll be meeting with next week. So there's more to come, and in my inaugural year, a lot of people to get to know, and that's part of my entry plan that I've included on my superintendent's page on the district website to give everyone an idea of what my first 100 days will be like, to ensure that I'm getting to know the community in a different capacity. Obviously, I'm a resident, but now looking at it through the superintendent's eyes, fresh set of eyes, and making sure that I'm working very closely with everyone. So that's it for the superintendent's report. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Dionisio? All right.
No questions, just a comment. I really appreciate your weekly updates to the board. They're really thorough. And I really appreciate the presentation you gave last week. And you gave it's a really nice speech. The poem that was included, I thought was very thoughtful. And just, thank you for doing, just really doing a great job and kind of going full force with it.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's do the resolutions.
I just want to note on resolution number 3, it should be noted that that is one personal business day without pay.
There's another question on resolution number 14.
Yeah, I don't.
That was 6 cents. I'm not charged 6 cents of the mapping fee. 6 cents. It says 6 cents per.
Unless that was a typo, but I can.
Is it per student, per building?
It's per meal served.
Per meal? Well, I think we should say that.
I should say that. But let me just double check it, so we'll table that, and then I'll have it on for the next board meeting.
All right, so we're tabling 14. And there is no 15. There's no 13. And you were at the addendum.
Let me done, right.
I had a question on number resolution 6.
Okay.
It said a grant was awarded. Do we have a dollar figure with that grant, or just?
I don't think.
There was the raw materials.
Oh, okay.
No dollar figure.
Okay.
I'll move that we approve.
Let's just have this idea of that call.
Okay. Resolve that the board approve resolutions number 1 through 13, and addendum resolution number 1, tabling resolution number 14.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Sparrow, seconded by Mr. Wilson. Does anyone have any questions that you did not already ask? All right, let's go on.
Mr. Sparta?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
Aye.
Mr. Galino?
Yes.
Mr. Yunus?
Yes.
Mr. Quattrochi?
Aye. Okay, that concludes the business portion of tonight's meeting. We'll open up to any public comment or questions.
Good evening. Joanne Lightbach, 14 Woodland Avenue. It's really bad. Just a few things. First of all, I want to take the opportunity tonight, although I'm not there anymore, Lanning Avenue School, I took the opportunity to go into the school last week. It looks fantastic. Thank you so much for doing the floors. They look wonderful, and it does such an amazing job at muffling that sound. With all the kids running the hallway, not just in the cafeteria, but in the hallway, the carpet that was put down in all of the hallways. But getting back to the multipurpose room, wonders. The sound panels are in, and it has done wonders for the room. I was actually yelling in there, and it's really neat.
Was that a test that you were?
It was a test, yeah. I did my own test, but it was great. So thank you so much for doing that. And I know Mr. Giacomo truly appreciates it, and so do all the parents. Thank you so much. I did want to, I know that I spoke with Mr. Dionisio about this, and also to Mr. Day about the food policy that was just recently instituted at the middle school about the elimination of food because of food allergies. I just wanted, and again, I've had this conversation with Mr. Dionisio and Mr. Day, just about, I've been fielding a lot of questions and comments and concerns from fifth grade parents about the elimination of the snack for the fifth graders, being that their lunch period is at 10:15 in the morning, and in the afternoon, by the time it's 2 o'clock, they're having math and science, and it's not really, stomach's grumbling, and it's not really a conducive learning environment for them if they're thinking about, I'm hungry, and, I'm thirsty or whatnot. So there have been some suggestions that some parents had, we were discussing it, and some parents had some suggestions. I spoke with Mr. Dionisio about that, and Mrs. McNeil approached me today at school. We had a very good conversation about that. Just, nothing more than, just looking at the board and seeing if there's a way that we can come to some middle ground for.
So we review this with Mr. Dees. We'll be sending out another communication to parents with a little bit more clarity on the nature of the food for the moment, the snack. That's actually the intention is to try to figure out how to alleviate the ban. The intention is not to come in and say, gee, it would be interesting if we just come up with a ban. Right? We have a situation with a student that is a severe situation, and the nature of it is such that we either need to take care of who sits at that desk as the students change desks. And we're working with the family and the physicians involved to make sure that we can secure what we need to secure for the student with particular case and issues that we've got. And as soon as we can clarify that and work out some path forward, and change.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So there'll be a communication from that. When it comes to these sorts of things, the bias is to err on the side of less information, because there's lots of rules around being able to identify a student.
Absolutely.
Just by characteristics, even if you can say, oh, that must be so-and-so. So we try to, our bias is to say as little as possible.
Absolutely, yes, totally agree. And as I've spoken with some of the parents that I have a child who has a tree nut allergy, and so it's
whatever the situation is.
so I appreciate it, and I spoke with Mr. Neal, and I appreciate the attention to the matter. So I think
Although we were aware of the student is a student that's in here, although we were aware of the situation, we get to the HBW where the students do change classrooms and add an element of things that we need to take extra precaution, and that's really what we're trying to do.
okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Susan Josephson, 247 Lincoln Avenue, and I had written this letter that I'm challenging the book Kite Runner as a summer read as part of classroom discussion at Verona High School because of its description of sodomy rape of a minor. The book depicts sexually explicit conduct that shocks anyone, let alone one who's 14. And the pathology presented, rape of a child, is too sensitive a topic for this developmental age group and could be considered excessive exposure to be reading about it, having to write about it, or discuss it with their peers in class discussion at school. And I'm writing, having read this book, I considered it a thought-provoking, beautifully written book. However, since there are so many other choices of great literature read in the best schools in this world, I remain convinced this book should be dropped due to the sensitive nature of this violence potential to do more harm to the students than good for the students. And I had a daughter who is in that class, who is a freshman. And so I showed this letter because I address it to Verona parents, and I showed it to Verona parents on town, and the response was, wow, they're 14 and they're reading about this. And when I read it, I mean, I'm in my 40s and I was shocked by this, and they're 14. So like the imprinting on the young people, I think is, it's inappropriate for the development age. So I would like it to be evaluated by the school board.
Well, so thank you for that. And there was some, I did receive and respond to another parent going about the same thing earlier today. So we cover this very lightly in our curriculum meeting today because the topic is did require a lot of thought to say, we should take a look at this. Right. So we've asked Mr. Dionisio in the course of him getting to speed in the district to do some combination of the following. And when I say some combination, I mean to varying degrees as appropriate. One is, to review these sorts of things, just to make sure, tonight we approved some videos, for example. So we should always be mindful of what the content is and whether it's age appropriate and how it meets the academic responsibilities that we have. So that's one thread of coming up to speed and as part of the review. The second thing is, are we clear enough around some of the nature in some of these books, because we do offer a choice.
That's right.
All right, so, but
This was a mandated read for 8 years. And then when parents came forward and said this is unacceptable that it be mandatory in classes, that they reluctantly.
Well, no, it wasn't reluctantly. We're guilty of not always thinking of all angles. But so once it was raised, we said, you know what, that's sensible. So let's make it not mandatory and let's put choice there. So there are choices now in the classes that have certain books that people have raised exception to. And then there's the class discussions, as we understand, the separation of the students who are working on one read versus another, so they're not commingling their stories and their experiences. Even with all of that, is it appropriate for the age group? Is it appropriate for the school? And does it fit the academic purposes that we're seeking? Right? And that should go true for whether they're reading material in books or whether they're videos or other sort of dialogue. Unfortunately, the nature of the world that we live in, we do get, I think it was last year, the year before, we even had some damage control to do around the homework assignment that was created some sensitivity problems for some students in the class, unintentionally, until you realized what the topic of the homework was and who was in the class and some histories, and you said, oh my gosh, how did we do this? So we're constantly battling that and sort of trying to be thoughtful and be positive.
Okay, but just parents have come forward in the past on this?
Yeah.
And some parents have recommended a warning or some kind of a review that would highlight
Correct.
what was in the book.
That's what I called awareness before.
Awareness.
Like on the website, so when you do select, you can say this book may have some material that you might find offensive or inappropriate for his child. But
But if you look at it, it isn't in there.
No, that's new. That's what we're saying, is to consider doing that.
But it was supposed to be, Mr. Miller had suggested, or actually said to the English teachers that he would like to have this, like a
Right.
warning to what the content was, and it wasn't done
And
there.
it's not there, and it's not there on any of the
It's not.
material. That's what we're saying, to go take a look at that and fix that. That should be fixed. There's no question about that. I mean, you wouldn't go see a movie unless you could determine what the rating of the movie was, right? I mean, nobody. But, so that's what we mean by awareness. It does beg the question, though, of, gee, what would you write in the awareness statement? And then still be able to stand behind the fact that it's a book that the students are going to read at some age level. So you want to be thoughtful about that. If it does require, sort of like a cigarette card, if it does require a warning with a skull and a crossbones, you probably would be best not to participate in it, right? Right, so we want to be consistent. We don't want to have a situation where, gee, we should have a warning and still have a book. Maybe if the warning says, that warning seems pretty dire, maybe you shouldn't have a book, right? Then that's what we want to be thoughtful about.
Thank
So you
you.
hear more about it.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Hi, Mr. Trustee, Tony Hillside. I'm just very curious about this. In which class was that for? Was that an honors?
It's a ninth grade assignment choice.
But, yeah, I know, but for college prep or the honors level?
I don't know.
Because
I don't recall, it's for an English class though.
yeah, because just when you said it was for 8 years and I had 3 kids come through, it wasn't on any list ever, so.
It was on any of mine either until I asked my daughter last night, and she said, oh yeah, we read that.
Yeah, it's just curious.
And the way we currently do it, just to clarify, is we offer choice. So students could pick Kite Runner or Great Expectations, and they read
Both
that.
on summer reads.
And then they read that as a summer read when they come into the classroom. The students break up into literature circles, so they work in their book groups to discuss it, and the two groups do not commingle, and the teacher facilitates and leads that book discussion and goes back and forth between those groups.
Yeah, interesting. All right, great, thank you.
So the choice is Great Expectations or Kite Runner?
That's right.
For that, good luck.
Gotta go with Kite Runner.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the,
Pretty wide choice.
kids look at the fitness, they're going with Kite Runner.
Exactly. I could be done with that in like 5 minutes.
Good evening, my name is Carmen, I'm living at 12 Cresta Road. My son was in that same class as Mrs. Johnson. I talked with him about the book and he told me that he find it, the material content is pretty depressing, and it might, in his own words, he said it might scar some of the kids. So I really feel that it really shouldn't be a choice at all whether you are giving a description on the nature of the book or not, you know, because the content is really heavy and the language is violent, and what is involved is something that I don't think kids are prepared at that age. And I asked my son, actually, what would he suggest? He said, probably I would be feeling more comfortable when I read it as like a junior or higher. I really feel that it might not be something that we wanted to make it happen in the ninth grade, especially when they are dealing with a lot of pressures into a new school and dealing with a lot of new stuff at the same time. And my son is in the honor class, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll wrap up tonight's meeting. Our next meeting, as we said earlier, is Tuesday, September 23rd. We have a confidential session at 7 o'clock and a public portion at 8. And as a reminder, again, Mr. McDivitt will be here to review our buildings and grounds progress, both in the baseline budget as well as for a referendum project. And also, Mr. Diniso is going to, have you sent out the proposed schedule of the updates post Mr. McDivitt's? I don't recall if you sent that.
Not publicly.
Not publicly. So maybe the next meeting we can review it. So Mr. Diniso will put a schedule for the rest of the year so that we'll have some line of sight on when Mr. McDivitt will be here, when Mr. Miller will be here, when we'll go through athletic updates with Mr. Frisian, et cetera. So that way those will all plotted and thought through. Okay.
Continue with student presentation.
We are.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, next board meeting.
Good point. So we have it's the 23rd meeting, September 23rd. We also have that evening presentation by Mr. Miller for the AP scholars who will be recognized from last year. So we have a large number of students who are recognized here at the board meeting, and you can definitely see the hard work that they put into it. So we'll be recognizing them on September 23rd.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.